So our work at the Center for Creative Leadership is interesting. We usually are known for self-awareness, and the whole idea is that we want to help people understand who they are and how they can relate to the world around them. And I think one of the things that I'm learning is leadership is a lot about boundary span. It's about building bridges between us and other people. So how is it that we find the bridge? I think that's the real question. For me, tapping into self-awareness makes a big difference. If I understand who I am, if I know myself well enough to say, what are the given aspects of my identity, chosen aspects, and even core aspects of who I am, there's a better chance of me being able to find a bridge between myself and another person. One of the things we ran into early on in our work was not everybody can afford things like Myers-Briggs Type Indicator or fundamental interpersonal relationship orientation behavior training. They don't all have access to great tools. So we wanted to come up with a way we could provide self-awareness at a low cost. One way we've done that is to create a tool at CCL called social identity. Now, social identity has been around for a long time. It's a theory that a lot of different researchers have made use of. It helps people understand who they are on multiple levels. But for us, we use it in leadership to create bridges, to span boundaries. And that's really important for our work. No matter where we are, if it's here in Ethiopia, if it's in India, or even in boardrooms of all kinds of great Fortune 50 companies, the work that we do is really about spanning boundaries. So I want to tell you about the way that social identity works. Social identity theory allows us to break the human element down into really 3 layers, if you would. First layer you might consider would be a given nature. Things that you didn't really get to vote on, you didn't have control over. That would be like where you were born, the year you were born. So for me, I was born in 1972. Here I am at 41 years old. I was an only child. I happened to be light-skinned American. Those are things that I didn't really have a choice in. But there were other things that came later in life. Usually around the age of about 15 or 16, our agency increases. And so the kinds of things that we think about in terms of who we are have more to do with the choices that we've made. So for me, as an example, I started playing guitar. It was a choice that I made. I started engaging in all sorts of activities outside of my home, whether it be sports or whether it be clubs, even political party affiliations, lots of different things that I began to choose. Eventually I chose to be married. Pleased to say I met a woman when I was very young, actually, just a year old, and Alyssa and I have known each other for most of my life, but it wasn't until later in life that we reconnected, got married, had children. One of those things that you would think about as maybe a given would be, well, you've got children. But in the case of our boys, we had 3 sons, and sons chose us. So that's that chosen element, given element, and the play in between the two. But another really important piece of identity is also core values. I like to think about it about legacy, or the kinds of things that you might talk about in terms of what you want to leave behind or how you want to be known in terms of reputation. So for me, I'm a person who really enjoys developing other people. I want to be about development. Integrity is really important to me. Those are things that become a key filter for me, really at the center of who I am. And so as I look at myself, look at legacy issues, it's really a lot about that core element. What will I leave behind? How will I be known in the world around me? Now, some of the kinds of questions we often get used is, what's the practical application of things like social identity? How does it matter in terms of what you do as a leader? Again, it's a lot about building bridges. So for me, how do I relate to the world around me? How do I connect deeply? Usually we have a short period of time, it's a handshake. Maybe I'm reaching out and I'm greeting someone and I tell them where I work and the kinds of things that I do on a day-to-day basis. But there's usually a bridge. There's usually something that connects you more deeply. It could be a hobby. It could be a circle that you would say is an in-group for you. Those are the things that you're looking to build up rather than the out groups, rather than the other things that you might want to avoid in terms of tearing down relationships or putting barriers between you and other people. So it's all about building bridges, relating to the world around you in different ways. I remember some trainings that we've done here where I've gone in to actually do women's empowerment, and it's been about trying to reach across that divide in terms of gender. Maybe I don't lead as going in as an American male, but I lead as going in as a family person, or a person who really loves my wife and children, and that's the bridge for us. I think good leaders, effective leaders, are always searching out for those bridges. Maybe it's a given notion of identity, a chosen or a core aspect. The last thing that I'd say about social identity is that most of our conflict comes from one of those spheres, given, chosen, or core. If you can find a core element of relationship, you can actually build a very quick and deep bond with another person, but that takes relationship. It takes a lot of depth in terms of conversation. So I would encourage you, take some time, think about that given, chosen, and core. Maybe even map it out. Ask yourself those questions about where you've come from, the things you didn't have control over, who you are today in terms of the choices that you've made, and who is it that you're at your core that would connect you to another person very deeply. How can you use that to avoid conflict and actually build better relationship over the season ahead? These are the things that we're doing at the Center for Creative Leadership. We're doing it at the grassroots as well as in boardrooms, and we would invite you to be a part of it. Thanks for talking with us today.